Chapter 77 of the Death Note manga, titled Use, is easily one of my favorite chapters of the entire manga, simply because one of its main focuses is a scene heavily centered around Near and Mello and their only direct confrontation with one another in the entire series, and I'll dedicate this entire video to doing an analysis on this one scene. Before starting, I want to give some context because I want to make exactly clear just what past events are relevant to what happened during the specific scene and how they're relevant to the multiple inferences I'm going to make. Succeeding the incident centered around Mello's temporary victory, Mello got raided by the task force under orders from Kita, he got his name discovered and barely managed to escape with all of his subordinates having died. Following these events, after deducing the second L as Kita, Near thinks that Mello may have left some of the SPK members alive so that he can use one of the SPK members as a source for information. Near thinks Mello will have chosen Hull as the one to provide information for Mello, so he tells her to intentionally spill information over to Mello, particularly the fact that the second L is Kita, and that Near has Mello's photograph. Near wants this to happen in order to stir Mello into action, most likely because Mello's previous actions just resulted in Near learning of the second L being Kita. Now Hull does just this, except what Near doesn't account for is the fact that Mello had actually contacted Hull prior to Near making his deduction about Mello contacting one of the SPK members. I think this ties into the overall theme associated with Near's character arc, which is that he always underestimates others, reflected within this incident through how he didn't anticipate Mello would move much quicker than he expected. Now, judging from the fact that we never see Hull tell Mello of Near having his photograph as Near instructed, implying that she told him before, we can assume that that wasn't really what motivated Mello to actually try and go into the SPK headquarters in order to retrieve the photograph, and it is because Hull told Mello of Near's theory that the second L is Kita, so he feels an obligation to not ensure his face won't be seen now that he's learned that Kita knows his name. So after Hull tells Mello of L being the second Kita, Mello doesn't really share his thoughts with Hull, meaning there isn't too much established trust between him and Hull, which is further reinforced by how he proceeds to ask Hull whose side she is on between him and Near. Hull points out how Mello wouldn't really have a place to stay now that Hull is forced to install surveillance cameras around the house, which would allow Near to learn of Mello contacting Hull earlier than Near thought. As a response to this, Mello tells Hull to go back to SPK headquarters. I presume that Mello is fine with letting Near know he has come into contact with Hull since he has nothing to lose now that he is forced to move out of her flat. Near sees Mello holding Hull at gunpoint and entering the SPK headquarters and is overtly shocked. Once Mello arrives, Near instead acts calm and nonchalant with his back turned to Mello and says welcome, which I think begins the chain of what this entire scene constitutes of, and that is plain one-upmanship. That's obvious why Mello would try and one-up Near because he's a jealous little shit, but why is it coming from Near's side as well? Put simply, it's because he's a manipulative little shit. Look what Near did just before this scene. He wanted to give info to Mello so as to stir him into action, and I think in this scene Near is still attempting to do just that. By making Mello's competitive side much stronger, he can further motivate Mello to try and stop Kita or do something which can hinder Kita much more and much faster. Keep in mind that this one-upmanship will be something very prevalent within this scene and is most of what this scene is made of. So the SPK points their guns at Mello, demanding that he lower his gun. However, Near then tells SPK members to lower their guns, and Giovanni responds by saying that Mello killed most of the SPK members and the Japanese police director. Near replies that there is no proof that Mello actually killed the SPK members and that he thinks Kita was actually the one who killed the director, which is a very contradictory statement. He says there is no proof that Mello killed the SPK agents, which is very funny considering it's extremely obvious Mello did so. Not to mention Near literally had past discussions with the SPK, and those discussions were entirely based off of the fact that Mello had killed the SPK agents. What's even funnier is that Near's refutation for Giovanni saying that Mello killed the director is that Near thinks Kita was the one who killed the director, which has zero proof whatsoever. Near then says that they shouldn't really kill Mello because Near's goal is to capture Kita. Mello is clearly not the enemy. He even goes as far as saying that Mello obtaining the notebook is something that the SPK should respect him for as one of the reasons why the agents should drop their guns. I think that there are a few different things going on here. Firstly, Near telling the SPK agents that there's no proof of Mello having murdered the other agents. The fact that he thinks Kita killed the director and that they should respect Mello is not only so that the SPK will lower their guns, as killing Mello would indeed be disadvantageous for Near, but I think it's also so that Mello will feel some sense of security around the SPK members because Near does want Mello to be in close contact with Hull. Further, Near saying that they shouldn't focus on Mello and that Kita is their only enemy is something that was bound to piss off Mello, at least slightly, meaning that this is part of the one-upmanship that essentially plagues this entire scene. Once SPK lowers their guns, Mello also lowers his, commenting well said Near, indicating some kind of taunting and the nullification of what Near just said, continuing the one-upping. Mello takes it a step further with a more attacking remark, rhetorically asking whether or not Near actually had everything planned and was controlling the situation. To which Near responds by saying that he did indeed plan on all this happening. In fact, Near even goes as far as saying that he didn't expect Mello to come all the way here, grounding his response in some more reality and essentially turning Mello's rhetorical question against him. Immediately after, the infamous moment occurs where Near tells Mello that he helped Near tremendously as his actions led to Near deducing that the second L is Kira, followed by Mello feeling overtly greatly insulted by this to such an extent that he literally holds Near at gunpoint, declaring that he must not be used by Near. Now, did Near expect Mello to raise his gun at Near? Judging from what we see in the scene previously, as well as Near's relatively stoic and unsurprised facial expression when Mello does so, I think so. Near would indeed gain something from this, as this would indeed very much intensify Mello's negative feelings towards Near, which is perfect for further motivating Mello to try and beat Near to defeating Kira. Near tries solidifying Mello's feelings even more, first by telling the SPK members to lower their guns, then by bluntly asking Mello to shoot Near. Now of course, I don't think Near planned on dying because he certainly has goals in mind which he takes seriously and really wants to achieve. I think he counted on Hall's interference, implying that he knows Hall has been helping Mello. From Near's perspective, it's quite obvious that this is the case, judging from how Rester noticed something off about Hall's behavior at her house, not to mention the fact that Mello was literally interacting with Hall before entering the SPK base in a way which would obviously imply that they have been interacting previously and without Near hearing and seeing it. Near has worked with Hall for quite a while now. He probably knows how she operates, so he knows that she'd probably want Near alive, and he knows that Hall must know what Mello's emotional vulnerabilities are. Besides just wanting to make Mello hate him more, I think Near also wants to ensure that he won't die at Mello's hands in the future, because he probably knows that Hall interfering would have to involve her reminding Mello that she cannot kill Near in ways that would convince Mello. After being convinced into not shooting Near, Mello is clearly humiliated that he did something so stupid that almost went against his own intentions, and he decides to simply scoff it off while saying she's right Near. Of course, while this is because Mello doesn't want to display weakness in front of Near because of his ego, it's kind of just something many people do anyway, and it isn't really unique to Mello. Now that Mello just blundered fatally, he's not going for any more taunting and immediately jumped to informing Near of why he came to the SPK base in the first place, which Near is receptive to. Near hands Mello the photograph and reassures Mello by telling him that he'll be safe, which is really just so Mello would be satisfied with receiving the photograph. Mello notices how Near wrote "Dear Mello" on the back of the photograph, which indicates that Near expected to eventually give this to Mello, which leads to Mello concerning the possibility that Near is indeed intentionally passing on information to Mello and maybe manipulating him. The significance of which I briefly go over in my previous video on Mello. Another thing I go over in my previous video is what Mello does next, which is deciding to pass information along to Near, which I explain is because Mello doesn't want to have Near be the dominant one in the situation and wants to eradicate his previous failure of helping Near deduce who Kira is. Mello informs Near of the Shinigami when he gives Near more details about the Shinigami, namely the situation with Ryo Kinsido. Near responds by saying why he knows that bit is obvious. I don't think there's one upmanship involved here, as Near's acting more humble than that with the use of the word we, so I think over here Near is just trying to render this bit of info obsolete under the slim chance that Mello may be dissatisfied with the amount of information he's given Near and decides to give more. Mello then tells Near of there being a fake role, but doesn't give further details on the matter, presumably because he doesn't want to give Near enough info to that large an extent, and he's already established to Near that he has lots of information. Of course, ultimately, Mello's being a smartass and withholding some information is inconsequential, as Near literally takes 2 seconds to find out what the fake rule is. The scene then ends on Near and Mello smugly declaring that they are going to beat the other in this race. It's obvious why this is coming from Mello's end, but why is it coming from Near's, who cares more about stopping Kira and couldn't care less about beating Mello? Well, evident from the nature of the overall scene, Near is simply trying to stir Mello into more action by fueling his competitive side further. That said, now I've finished my analysis on the scene, I do think that what Near is doing is pretty immoral, as it's just exacerbating Mello's insecurities and his ego issues just to further ensure that Mello would act in a way that would benefit Near. Although that isn't to say I don't like Near as a character. Hope you enjoyed and subscribe for more content in the future.